Dear listeners, I ask you to listen to the story until the very end and be sure to write a review about what you liked and what needs to be changed to make it more interesting for you to listen to my stories. Underwater fear. They say the sea keeps secrets, but it's not the sea I'm afraid of. It's the steel coffin I call home. The USS Barracuda, a fleet submarine, is deep in enemy waters. We've been stalking a Japanese convoy for 2 days now, and tonight we strike. I can already hear the metallic groan of the hull as we descend. The pressure outside is rising, the air inside thick with sweat and diesel fumes. My name is Dave Hudson, chief mechanic, and if things go south, I'll be the one patching up the old girl, while the rest of the crew prays we make it out alive. Captain Reynolds stands near the periscope, his voice calm. Mark, fire one. The whoosh of the torpedo launch is barely audible, but I know what's coming. Seconds later, a deep stomach-churning explosion shudders through the water. Then another. The Japanese freighter is hit. A cheer wants to escape my throat, but I swallow it back, because the hunt has just begun. The convoy's escort, a destroyer, comes to life. Its massive searchlights slice through the darkness, illuminating the churning sea. The engines roar as it changes course. It knows we're here. Rig for silent running, the captain orders. I hold my breath. Every man on board does. The pumps slow. The fans stop. The very heartbeat of the sub weakens to a whisper. We sink into the abyss. Then comes the first depth charge. A dull, distant thud, like a giant knocking on our door. Then another, closer. The third one. The world explodes. Metal screeches. Pipes burst. A wrench slips from my grasp, clattering onto the deck. My blood turns to ice. Did they hear that? We sink lower. Too low. The hull groans again, a long, mournful wail. It's the sound of death inching closer. I glance at O'Malley, the torpedo room assistant. His face is pale, his freckles stark against the sickly light. We ain't making it out, are we, Hud? He whispers. I don't answer. Because I don't lie. The silence inside the submarine is suffocating, a thick, living thing that presses against my chest more than the sea outside ever could. Somewhere in the control room, a single gauge hisses as it releases pressure, the sound barely noticeable, but in this moment, deafening. I can hear my own pulse, a dull drumbeat in my ears, and I wonder if the others can hear it too. We're still descending, slower now, but too deep for comfort. The captain's voice, low and steady, cuts through the thick air. We hold here. It's not a request. It's a decision made by a man who's been in these waters too long to let fear dictate his choices. But fear is here, lurking in the dark corners of the sub, wrapping itself around the crew like a second skin. I keep my hands moving, tightening a valve, checking the pressure on a cracked gauge, listening to the faint, ominous hiss of a pipe that shouldn't be leaking. The wrench in my grip is slick with sweat, but I hold on tight, as if that alone will keep this metal beast from collapsing under the crushing weight above us. Then another explosion. Closer this time, close enough to feel the shockwave tremble through the hull like a giant's fist pounding against our steel skin. The lights flicker, and for a moment, just a fraction of a heartbeat, I think this is it. Then, but the lights hold. The sub holds. We're still alive. O'Malley isn't moving. He's frozen, his hands clenched so tight around a wrench that his knuckles have gone bone white. I nudge him with my boot, not unkindly, just enough to snap him out of it. Stay with me, kid. I mutter, just loud enough for him to hear. He blinks, swallows hard, nods. Above us, the destroyer is waiting. It knows we're here. It's listening, waiting for a mistake, for the smallest sound, the tiniest movement, a single breath too loud. The captain gives the order to drift, engines off, riding the current like a dead fish. It's a gamble, a dangerous one, but it's our best chance. If we move, they'll hear us. If we don't, they might think we're already gone. Minutes stretch into eternity. My lungs burn, even though I know I'm breathing. The sweat trickling down my spine feels like ice. The metal beneath my feet is the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. Then, faint at first, but unmistakable, comes the sound we've all been dreading. The destroyer's propellers change pitch. It's turning, searching, hunting. And then, the worst sound of all, the unmistakable, heart-stopping ping of active sonar. They found us, and there's nowhere left to run. The first ping rattles my skull, a sharp metallic shriek that echoes through the submarine like the scream of a dying thing. It's not just sound, it's pressure, an invisible force that seems to reach inside my head and squeeze. The destroyer is sweeping for us, sending out those merciless bursts of sound that bounce off our steel hull and scream back to them. Here they are. Come and kill them. I grip the nearest pipe, my knuckles aching from the force, and force myself to focus. There's nothing I can do about the sonar. That's for the captain and the sonar techs. My job is keeping this rusted beast from falling apart before the enemy gets the chance to do it for us. Another ping. Closer this time. The bastards are zeroing in. Captain Reynolds' voice is like steel wrapped in velvet, calm, but sharp enough to cut. All hands, prepare for depth charges. There's nothing to prepare. You don't prepare for depth charges. You endure them. You pray the bolts hold, that the welds don't crack, that when the water comes rushing in, it's a slow leak instead of a fatal breach. The first charge detonates somewhere behind us, distant but powerful. The hull trembles like a living thing, the metal groaning as it flexes under the shockwave. The second comes closer, a sharp whump that makes my teeth rattle in my skull. Then the third. The explosion hits us like a hammer. The sub jerks violently, metal shrieking in protest. I'm thrown sideways, my shoulders slamming into the bulkhead hard enough to send white-hot pain shooting down my arm. Somewhere behind me, a pipe ruptures, spewing a scalding jet of steam into the cramped passage. A shout, O'Malley. I turn, heart hammering, and see him on the deck, clutching his leg. Blood pools beneath him, dark and thick in the dim red lighting. I'm on my knees beside him in an instant, my hands moving on instinct. The gash is bad, deep, but not fatal. Not yet. Hold still. I murmur, pressing my hand hard against the wound. The heat of his blood seeps through my fingers, sticky and real. Another explosion, this one so close that for a moment, I swear the entire sub is coming apart around us. The lights flicker again, then die completely. We are plunged into darkness. The only sound is the ragged breathing of 60 men trapped in a metal coffin, waiting to see if it will become their grave. Then, from somewhere in the blackness, the voice of Captain Reynolds, calm and steady as ever. Emergency lights. Now, a second later, the dim red glow returns, painting everything in hellish hues. The sub is still here. We are still here. But for how much longer? I don't have time to wonder. O'Malley is still bleeding, and if we don't stop it, he won't live long enough to drown. I rip a strip from my undershirt, wrap it tight around his leg, and tie it off as best I can. Above us, the destroyer waits. It knows it hit us. It knows we're wounded. And it's not done with us yet. The next depth charge will be the one that decides if we live or die. The silence after the last explosion is worse than the blasts themselves. It's the kind of silence that wraps around you, heavy and thick, like a wool blanket soaked in gasoline. The only sound inside the sub are the creaks of stressed metal, the hissing of a steam leak somewhere behind me, and the ragged breathing of 60 men who know they are standing at the edge of their own graves. O'Malley grips my sleeve with clammy fingers, his voice weak but urgent. We ain't making it, are we? I want to lie to him. I want to tell him that we're going to be fine, that we'll be drinking warm beers on some island in a week, swapping stories about how we tricked the damn destroyer and lived to tell the tale. But I can't, because I don't know if that's true. Instead, I squeeze his arm and say, not if you bleed out before they finish the job. It's a lousy joke, but it gets a weak chuckle out of him, and for a second, the fear in his eyes flickers, just a little. The sub tilts ever so slightly. We're still sinking. Not fast, but enough to matter. If we go too deep, it won't be the destroyer that kills us. It'll be the ocean itself, crushing us like an empty tin can. Captain Reynolds is already at the chart table, his brow furrowed, whispering to the exec. They're trying to figure out our next move, but the truth is, we don't have many options left. We can't surface. The destroyer will rip us apart with its guns. We can't stay here. They'll keep dropping depth charges until there's nothing left but twisted metal and bubbles. Then, the worst sound in the world. A metallic groan. Slow, drawn out, like the tortured wail of something ancient waking from its sleep. Dull. The pressure is getting to her. She's holding, but barely. The steel walls around us are bending, microscopic cracks forming, invisible for now, but not for long. Then another sound quieter, but no less terrifying. Water. A slow drip at first, coming from somewhere near the aft bulkhead. Then a steady trickle. A leak. The crew hears it too. Heads turn. Eyes widen. Someone curses under their breath. If the water starts coming in, we're finished. Not just because we'll drown, but because even a small flood will throw off our trim, making us sink faster. The deeper we go, the worse the pressure gets, and once it reaches the breaking point, there's no stopping it. I scramble toward the sound, wrench in hand. The pipe has split, just a hairline fracture, but enough for seawater to force its way in. I press my fingers against the crack. Ice-cold water seeps through, running down my wrist. I grab a patch kit from my belt, hands moving on instinct, working fast. The trick is to seal it before the pressure makes it worse. Every second counts. My fingers are shaking, but I force them steady. The metal is slick with water, my grip slipping, but I hold on, pressing the patch tight, twisting the bolts until I can't turn them anymore. The trickle slows, then stops. For now. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding and glanced back at O'Malley. He's still watching me, his face pale, but his eyes locked on mine. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. I just nod. Then, from above, a sound that makes my blood run cold. The whine of propellers. The destroyer is moving. Not away. Not past us. But right over us. I don't breathe. No one does. We are trapped beneath the enemy, in a broken sub, with only inches of steel and silence between life and death. And then, another ping. Louder. Clearer. They know exactly where we are. And they're about to finish what they started. The next explosion doesn't come right away, and somehow that's worse than if it had. It means they're taking their time, listening, calculating. They want to make sure the next depth charge does more than just shake us up. They want to end this. I glance around the control room, taking in the grim faces of the crew. Some men are gripping their stations, so tight their knuckles have turned white. Others are whispering prayers under their breath, their lips barely moving. No one looks at anyone else. It's as if making eye contact will confirm what we're all thinking, but refuse to say out loud. This might be it. The hull groans again, a long drawn-out wail that vibrates through my bones. I can feel the ocean pressing in on us, an invisible weight that is growing heavier with every second we sink. The pressure gauge to my right is creeping upward, slow but relentless. We are still descending, not fast, not enough for panic, but enough to know that time is not on our side. I force myself to focus, running my hands over the patched pipe. It's holding, but barely. If another explosion hits anywhere close, this whole section could blow open, and then it won't matter what the destroyer does. We'll be dead before they even have to drop another charge. Captain Reynolds turns from the sonar operator, his expression unreadable, but the way his jaw tenses tells me all I need to know. The destroyer has us locked in. He steps toward the helmsman, his voice so low I almost don't catch it. We go deeper. For a second, no one moves. No one even breathes. Then, slowly, deliberately, the helmsman reaches for the controls, adjusting our angle ever so slightly. The sub tilts, just enough for my stomach to take notice, and we begin our descent into the abyss. It's madness. The deeper we go, the more the pressure builds. Every submarine has a limit, a point where the hull simply won't take it anymore. No one on this boat knows exactly where that limit is, and none of us want to find out. But Reynolds knows what he's doing. If we stay where we are, we die for sure. If we dive, there's a chance, slim, desperate, but a chance that we slip beneath the enemy's sonar range, disappear into the deep like a ghost, and live to see another sunrise. The hull creaks louder, protesting our descent. Somewhere toward the stern, something pops, maybe a rivet, maybe just the metal shifting under the strain. No one speaks. No one moves. Even O'Malley, despite the blood seeping through his makeshift bandage, doesn't make a sound. Then the destroyer makes its move. The first depth charge detonates directly above us, and the force of it is like a giant's hand slamming down on the sub. The deck shudders violently, metal screaming as bolts strain against their housings. I'm thrown sideways, my shoulder hitting the bulkhead hard enough to send a jolt of pain down my arm, but I barely register it. The second explosion comes almost immediately after, closer this time, and the sound is deafening, a deep gut-punching whomp that reverberates through the hull like the tolling of a funeral bell. The emergency lighting flickers. Sparks burst from an exposed panel near the radio station. A pipe overhead lets out a high-pitched shriek as steam hisses through a hairline crack. I hear someone cursing near the aft section, and then the unmistakable gurgling sound of water. More leaks. We're taking damage, someone shouts, but no one needs to be told that. We all know. Reynolds' voice cuts through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Blow aft ballast tanks. Level us out. The order is carried out instantly. A deep mechanical thunk echoes through the sub as air rushes into the ballast tanks, slowing our descent. The pressure gauge stops climbing. We hold at this depth, teetering on the edge of destruction, but not falling over. Not yet. Another explosion, farther away this time. They're still hunting, but we're slipping from their grasp. The sonar pings are less frequent now, less sure. They're losing us. But the destroyer isn't giving up. It's waiting, watching, listening. And so we wait too, trapped in a dying sub, surrounded by an ocean that wants to swallow us whole, hoping that the enemy above makes one mistake before we do. The minutes stretch into eternity, thick and heavy with the kind of silence that feels unnatural, almost hostile. We're suspended between life and death, between survival and oblivion, between the crushing weight of the ocean below and the unseen predator lurking above. Every man on board knows that the destroyer is still there, listening, waiting for us to give ourselves away. It's a standoff, but not the kind where both sides have an equal chance. They hold all the cards. We're just hoping the dealer gets distracted long enough for us to slip out the back door. I shift my weight, careful not to let my boots scrape against the deck, and glance at the pressure gauge again. It's steady. For now. The leak near the aft section is slow, not catastrophic, but it's only a matter of time before it becomes something worse. The steel around us groans, soft but insistent, like the submarine itself is whispering a warning. Not much longer, boys. Not much longer now. O'Malley is still conscious, though just barely. His face is pale, his breathing shallow, and I know he needs more help than I can give him down here. I press a hand against his shoulder, just to let him know I'm still here. He blinks at me, his expression unreadable. Maybe he's wondering if I'll be the last face he ever sees. Maybe I'm wondering the same thing. Then, from the sonar station, a single, hushed word. Movement. The air in the sub tightens. No one speaks. No one even breathes. I turn my head slowly, as if moving too fast will somehow make a noise loud enough to give us away. The sonar operator is hunched over his station, his hands hovering above the controls, barely touching them. His eyes flick toward the captain, waiting for orders. Captain Reynolds doesn't answer right away. He stands perfectly still, his gaze locked on the faint, ghostly blip that has appeared on the sonar screen. The destroyer isn't moving away. It's circling, still hunting. But then something changes. Another blip appears, faint but unmistakable. Then another. And another. The destroyer isn't alone anymore. My stomach knots. Reinforcements? More enemy ships? Did they call in backup while we were sitting down here in the dark like cowards waiting to be buried? The sonar operator frowns, adjusting the dials, listening. Then his eyes widen, and his voice is barely more than a whisper. It's not ships. A sick feeling curls in my gut. I don't like that answer. I don't like the way his voice shakes when he says it. Reynolds leans over the screen, studying the new contacts. His face gives nothing away, but the set of his jaw, the way his fingers twitch against the table, tells me he doesn't like what he's seeing either. The sonar pings from the destroyer continue, steady, methodical, but something about them has changed. They aren't as precise now. They aren't as focused. Like they're distracted. Like they hear something we don't. Then, from above, a sound that doesn't belong. A deep, resonant thrum, low and vibrating, like the distant call of something ancient stirring from its slumber. It doesn't sound mechanical. It doesn't sound like a ship. It doesn't sound like anything I've ever heard before. And it's coming from the depths below us. A slow, creeping horror spreads through my chest, coiling around my ribs like a vice. I glance around the control room, looking at the other men, seeing the same thing in their eyes. Fear. Not of the destroyer. Not of drowning. Not of dying. But of something else. Something waiting in the dark. The destroyer above us has stopped moving. The pings have stopped. And then, a sound that I will never forget, no matter how long I live. A sharp, metallic screech. Not from us. Not from our sub. From above. From the destroyer. The men around me stiffen. Someone mutters a curse under their breath. Then another sound. A groaning crack, followed by a deep, resonant boom. Something just hit the destroyer. Something big. The sonar operator's voice is barely more than a breath. What the hell is happening up there? No one answers. Because none of us have any idea. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I wonder if we're safer down here in the belly of the deep, or if we've just been trapped in something else's hunting ground. The silence that follows is suffocating. The destroyer, once our executioner, now sits motionless above, as if frozen in place. Sonar isn't picking up any movement. No pings, no propellers, no depth charges. Just a stillness that feels unnatural, almost deliberate, like the ocean itself is holding its breath. No one speaks, but I know every man aboard is thinking the same thing. What just happened? I glance at Captain Reynolds. His face is locked in a stony expression, but I see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He doesn't know either. And that terrifies me more than anything. Another sound drifts through the water, low and distant, like a great inhale from something impossibly large. It's not mechanical. It's not the groaning of a sinking ship. It's something else. A soft thud follows, then a ripple of movement on sonar. The destroyer shifts, tilts, almost like something is pulling it. Not a rapid sinking, not a detonation breaking it apart. A pull. A slow, deliberate descent into the abyss. A man near the aft section whispers something under his breath, a prayer maybe, or a curse. No one tells him to be quiet this time. Then a sudden, sharp crack. Not from us. Not from the destroyer. From below. The sound vibrates through the hull, deep and resonant, like a mountain shifting beneath the weight of the ocean. The steel around us groans, trembling under an unseen force. And then, through the oppressive darkness outside, a shadow moves. I don't see it, not fully. Just the suggestion of something massive, something that shouldn't exist at this depth. A vague, shifting shape beyond the dim glow of our navigation lights. I forget to breathe. My fingers tighten around the edge of a console, knuckles white. Another noise, this time from the destroyer. A deep grinding sound, metal being twisted and torn. It's being pulled apart. No explosion, no rapid disintegration, just the slow, cruel destruction of something being claimed by the deep. And then silence. The sonar operator swallows hard. His hands are shaking. The destroyer is gone. A moment passes. Then another. Captain Reynolds exhales, slow and measured. His voice, when he finally speaks, is just above a whisper. All ahead 1/3. Silent running. No one questions the order. No one asks what just happened. We don't want to know. The engines hum to life, barely audible. The sub inches forward, slow, careful, like a wounded animal, trying not to attract a predator's attention. Every creak of the hull, every shift of pressure, every sound feels amplified. The water around us is too still, too quiet. And then, from somewhere in the depths below, a final sound. A single, echoing thrum. Not aggressive, not threatening, just a presence. Something acknowledging us, something letting us go. We don't look back. We don't check the sonar again. We just move. For hours, we stay in silence, navigating through the black void of the ocean, away from whatever we just encountered. The pressure gauge holds steady. The leaks, though still present, are manageable. No one speaks of what happened. No one dares to. It's only when we surface, long after the danger has passed, that someone finally breaks the silence. O'Malley, still weak, still pale, manages a dry chuckle. Well, he mutters, voice hoarse, I don't think that one's making it into the official report. A few of the men laugh thin, uneasy laughter, the kind that lingers in the back of your throat. Captain Reynolds just stares out over the waves, his expression unreadable. I follow his gaze, looking at the empty horizon, the vast, endless expanse of water stretching in every direction. Nothing but ocean. Nothing but the quiet rhythm of the waves. No sign of the destroyer. No wreckage. No bodies. Just a dark sea, deep and unknowable. And beneath it, something watching, waiting, hunting. We made it out. We survived. But as I stand there, feeling the salty wind on my face, I can't shake the thought that we weren't the ones in control down there. We were allowed to leave, and I don't ever want to know why.